The sky above Eos 7 was a soft gray, streaked with faded sunlight. Winds drifted lazily across the plains, stirring dry soil and carrying the scent of solar-baked grass. The colony sat quiet and low to the ground, a patchwork of small shelters, greenhouses, and solar towers barely taller than a tree. To anyone looking from orbit, it wouldn't even register as a real settlement. Life on Eos 7 was slow. It had to be. The planet was far from the inner systems, beyond Earth's regular patrol routes, and almost forgotten by the United Human Authority. Supply ships hadn't come in years. The colonists had learned to live with what they had, repurposed tech, manual farming, and a deep sense of community. Lena Morrow stood at the top of the old communications tower, a rusted frame with just enough power left to scan the sky. She wiped sweat from her forehead, watching the horizon as a signal scanner hummed behind her. Tall and lean, with brown hair tied back in a tight knot, Lena had lived on Eos 7 since she was 12. Now 28, she was the closest thing the colony had to a scientist. She checked the screen again. A blinking red dot appeared. She blinked, then checked the coordinates. It was real. A ship. Large, fast, and headed straight for them. Lena's stomach turned cold. She bolted down the tower ladder, boots clanging against steel. The wind grew stronger, pulling at her clothes as she hit the ground running. The colony's main square was just a circle of worn benches and a solar-powered display board. A few elders sat drinking herbal tea. Farmers hauled tools. Children chased each other between the greenhouse domes. All of them paused when they saw Lena sprinting toward the council building. Inside, 5 council members sat around a round table. They were older, practical people, engineers, teachers, and caretakers who had long since stopped expecting anything from the stars. I picked up a ship, Lena said without breath. Not human. It's big. Coming fast. The room fell silent. Military? Asked Tamir, a former miner. It's not one of ours, Lena said. The signal pattern matches Volari Dominion ships. That name sucked the warmth from the air. The Volari Dominion, a brutal alien empire known for wiping out resistance without mercy. They had conquered dozens of systems. And now they were coming here? No weapons, muttered Juno, a weather tech. We have no defense grid. No fleet, said another. No hope, whispered someone else. Lena clenched her jaw. There's still time. We need to prepare. For what? Asked Tamir. To die well. No. To confuse them. The council stared. I'm serious, she said. We're the weakest colony. No weapons. No soldiers. No value. We make them ask why we're still here. Why we haven't run. Why we don't resist. We turn our weakness into fear. If we can't win by force, then we win by being unpredictable. They looked at her like she had gone mad. Lena stepped forward. Listen, if we fight, we die. If we beg, we become slaves. But if we make them unsure, if we act like we know something they don't, maybe they back off. Or maybe they hesitate long enough for us to outlast them. Silence. Then, slowly, Juno nodded. They don't fear strength, she said. But they might fear what they can't understand. Tamir sighed. You really believe this will work? I believe it's the only way that might. The council called an emergency meeting for the entire colony. By sunset, every adult was gathered in the food hall. Lena explained the plan. There were arguments. Some laughed. Some accused her of risking everyone's lives. But when she said the alternative was certain death, people listened. We don't fight. We don't surrender. We confuse. We mislead. We act strange enough that they leave us alone. Someone asked, and if they don't? Then we face them as we are together. By nightfall, teams were forming. Artists prepared strange banners. Engineers rigged broken machines to pulse and glow in odd ways. Elders practiced chants in made-up languages. Children were taught to act like they didn't understand common speech. The colony would become something the Volari didn't expect, a mystery. Lena stood on the roof of her shelter that night, staring up at the stars. A small blinking light moved across the sky. The Volari were close now. No guns. No shields. Only minds. She breathed in deeply. Let them come. The sun rose slowly over the plains of Eos 7, casting pale orange light over the colony. A thin fog hugged the ground, giving the fields a ghostly look. The wind was quiet. It was the kind of morning that usually passed unnoticed. But today, everything had changed. Lena Morrow stood in the center of the colony square. Around her, the people of Eos 7 moved quickly. There was no fear on their faces, only focus. They had chosen their path, and now they were walking it together. We have 2 days, Lena said aloud to the teams forming around her. Maybe less. That's all the time we have to make this colony look like something they don't want to touch. The plan was strange. Risky. But it was the only one they had. Inside the community workshop, engineers and mechanics rewired broken drones to flash strange lights and emit strange sounds. One drone floated in a slow spiral while humming a low, constant tone. Another blinked red and blue and broadcast nonsense words in bursts of static. Make it look like some kind of malfunction. Or maybe something worse, Lena told them. The Volari don't know how humans live out here. Let's make them think we've gone mad. Elsewhere, artists painted strange symbols on buildings, spirals, eyes, and jagged lines, each one designed to feel uncomfortable. They used glowing minerals and reflective paints that shimmered in the dark. Elders practiced slow, rhythmic movements they called the dance of silence. It meant nothing, but looked like a ritual. They wore cloaks made from shredded solar blankets and moved in circles, never speaking. The greenhouses were turned into eerie gardens. Lights were dimmed and red filters placed over them, turning healthy plants into blood-colored bushes. The children were taught to speak in broken sentences and ask odd questions like, "Why do you still have skin?" Or, "Has your ship already heard the signal?" At first, some colonists felt foolish. But Lena reminded them, we're not fighting with weapons. We're fighting with doubt. Meanwhile, up in orbit, the Volari ship approached silently. The Vraxel Dominion war frigate was enormous, over a kilometer long, shaped like a blade of dark metal. It shimmered with shielding tech and carried enough firepower to level a city. Commander Threxelvar stood on the bridge, his forearms folded behind his back, his tall frame motionless. "Commander," a junior officer reported. "We've reached sensor range. Scanning surface now." Threxel said nothing. He watched the screen as images appeared, odd buildings, strange lights, nonsensical radio broadcasts. A colony, yes, but something was wrong. There were no visible defenses. No sign of panic. No organized response. "What is this?" he muttered. Analysis. Uncertain. Colony shows signs of cultural disorder. Possible mental contamination. Unknown technology signature detected near main structure. Unknown. Threxel snapped. These are humans. What unknown tech could they have? The officer swallowed. Possibly ceremonial. Possibly experimental. Threxel narrowed his eyes. He had crushed rebellions, burned cities, faced down warships. But this was something different. The humans weren't resisting. They weren't surrendering. They were just strange. Back on EOS 7, Lena stood in the comm tower again. She knew the Volari would be watching by now. "Broadcast," she said into the microphone. Her voice echoed through the colony and up into space. "This is EOS 7. You are welcome to approach. But we do not advise it. The last ones never left. The ground remembers. So do we." Then she cut the signal. A pause. Then laughter. Not from the Volari, but from the colonists below. It wasn't joy. It was nervous energy spilling out as courage. Later that day, the council met again. "They're watching," Lena said. "They'll send scouts. Maybe drones. We have to stay in character. Everyone. What happens if they land?" Juno asked. Lena paused. "We keep acting. Make them question everything. If they can't trust what they see, they won't act." Tamir nodded slowly. "Confusion is our shield." That night, red lights pulsed across the colony. Drones drifted above the rooftops, whispering nonsense. Elders danced in silence. Children whispered strange riddles to anyone who passed. Above them, the Volari warship watched. And hesitated. Commander Threxelvar stood tall at the center of the Volari warship's command bridge. The room was dim, lit by green holograms and the flicker of alien glyphs dancing across curved displays. The crew moved in silence, each motion tight, disciplined. Their commander's reputation for crushing resistance was well known. He had no tolerance for weakness. But something about EOS 7 felt wrong. He narrowed his deep-set eyes, four-fingered hands clenched behind his back. On screen, the human colony blinked and shimmered with strange lights. Symbols painted on buildings glowed under odd wavelengths. Energy readings were erratic. Movement on the ground didn't match any known military formations. And their message, calm, cryptic, and eerie, had not changed. "This is not a defensive formation," Threxel muttered. "But they are not afraid. That is the danger." The bridge remained quiet. "Send a scout team," he said finally. 2 stealth drones. "Keep low. I want visuals. Patterns. Behavior." "Yes, Commander," replied his second-in-command, a silver-scaled Volari named Vark. As the drones launched, Threxel stepped into his private chamber. The walls were lined with trophies from conquered worlds, masks, weapons, banners. He stared at a blade taken from a human officer years ago. Brutal, simple steel. Crude, yet effective. He clenched his jaw. Humans are primitive, he told himself. But they adapt. Fast. That's what makes them dangerous. Back on Eos 7, Lena Morrow stood near the colony's main dome, watching a small glowing orb drift overhead. She didn't blink. She simply nodded, as if greeting an old friend. "They've sent eyes," she said softly to Tamir, who was kneeling nearby, drawing runes in the dirt with colored chalk. "Then we show them what they came to see," Tamir replied. The colony came alive in carefully rehearsed chaos. One group of colonists formed a slow-moving circle around the central dome, humming in low tones, each wearing fabric masks with painted faces. Children ran between structures, laughing one moment and staring blankly the next. A group of elders stood perfectly still in the sun, arms raised to the sky as if waiting for something to descend. Inside the greenhouses, mirrors reflected distorted images of people. Heat lamps flickered rhythmically, giving the illusion of pulsing energy fields. The drones hovered, scanning everything, but nothing made sense. Meanwhile, deep inside the colony's old data storage room, Lena activated a hidden transmitter and spoke into a narrowband signal. Eos 7 log entry. Day 2. The Valari are watching. They've sent scouts. Their silence means we've rattled them, but not enough. We keep pushing. If they think we're infected or unstable, they won't land. She clicked off the recorder and returned to the surface. The sun was now high overhead, casting sharp shadows across the colony. She spotted a child standing on a roof, holding a piece of broken circuit board like it was a holy relic. The act was working. The colony felt like a dream or a nightmare. That evening, the drones returned to the warship. Threxel stood with arms folded as the data played. He watched silently. The colonists were clearly human, but their actions were erratic. Their tech was outdated, yet something about the energy patterns didn't match known systems. His analyst couldn't explain the symbols, the behaviors, or the red glowing plants. "They do not act like civilians," one officer said. "They are not organized like soldiers either," added another. "They have something," Threxel growled. "Something they're not showing." Vark leaned forward. "Could be psychological defense. Or perhaps an internal breakdown. Contagion. Some kind of mental virus. Is that a guess or a warning?" Threxel asked. Vark didn't answer. Threxel turned to the screen. The human woman, the one who kept appearing in footage, stood at the top of a tower. Always calm. Always watching. "What is her name?" he asked. "Unknown. But she appears to lead them." Threxel frowned. "She's dangerous." The next day, Threxel made a decision. Prepare a landing party. 5 elite guards. "I want direct contact with this colony. Commander, if there is contagion." "I will not fear phantoms," Threxel snapped. "I will see the truth with my own eyes." But even as he gave the order, a seed of doubt grew inside him. On conquered worlds, resistance came with fire and weapons. Here, it came with silence and the unknown. Back on Eos 7, Lena looked up at the sky. A tiny black shape moved against the stars. "They're coming," she whispered. She turned to the others and gave a single nod. "Let's make them wonder if they're even awake." The Valari shuttle cut through Eos 7's upper atmosphere like a black blade. It made no sound as it descended, its surface absorbing the sunlight, casting no reflection. Birds fled from the treetops. The ground crew inside the colony watched the dark shape draw closer. Lena Morrow stood at the edge of the landing field, an open stretch of packed dirt and dried grass. She wore no armor, carried no weapon. Around her, the colonists moved as they had rehearsed. Calm, slow, deliberate. "Positions," Lena said quietly into her small communicator. "No fear, no aggression. Let them see what they don't understand." The shuttle landed with a low hum. Dust swirled outward. The hatch opened with a hiss, and 5 Valari soldiers stepped out. Tall, scaled, and armored in smooth black suits, they looked like shadows given form. Behind them came Commander Threxel Var, walking tall, arms at his sides, his golden eyes sharp and unblinking. Lena stepped forward alone. She stopped 10 paces from the commander and bowed slightly. "Welcome to Eos 7, she said evenly. "You must be curious." Threxel studied her. She was calm. Too calm. Her eyes held no fear, only a quiet confidence. It unsettled him more than a weapon would have. "We expected resistance," he said. "Or surrender. You offer neither." Lena smiled gently. "There's nothing to resist. Nothing to surrender. Only what is." Threxel scanned the area. Behind her, colonists walked in slow lines, some carrying small glowing objects. Others sat with eyes closed, whispering to no one. Symbols glowed faintly on the nearby walls. Strange sounds drifted in the air, part music, part static. What is the purpose of this behavior? Drexel asked. It's how we live, Lena said simply. We've adapted. To what? She looked up at the sky. To what came before. And what may come again. The cryptic answer made Drexel's jaw tighten. You speak in riddles. I want facts. Lena tilted her head. Facts are easy to break. Ideas are harder. Before he could respond, one of the Volari guards stepped away, scanning the colony. He moved toward a group of children playing with pieces of broken machinery. One child looked up at him and whispered, Is your skin still yours? The guard froze. Another colonist walked by holding a cracked mirror and said softly, They left pieces of themselves in the soil. Did you find yours yet? The guard returned to formation without a word. Drexel noticed. Back aboard the Volari ship, the scout who had defected earlier stood in the observation deck. His name was Kes Veruin, and though he wore the uniform of the Volari fleet, his mind had changed. He had seen what Lena was doing and understood it. They're not mad, Kes said to Vark, who stood beside him. They're strategic. Every symbol, every phrase, every action is designed to feed doubt. Vark frowned. You've been affected. No. I've been enlightened, Kes replied. We conquer with fear. But what do we do when our fear is reflected back at us, twisted into something we can't explain? Vark looked away. Back on the surface, Drexel followed Lena through the colony. She showed him the greenhouses, the energy domes, the silent rituals. Nothing was hidden, but nothing was clear. You have no weapons, Drexel said. No soldiers. And yet, here we are, Lena replied. You think your riddles protect you? No, she said. But your confusion does. Drexel stopped walking. You were stalling, he growled. Trying to delay your end. Lena looked him in the eye. You've already delayed it yourself. You could have destroyed us from orbit. But you came down here. You wanted to see us. You wanted to understand. Drexel said nothing. That evening, the Volari commander and his guards returned to the shuttle. As it lifted off, Lena stood where she had been all day, watching the stars. Later, on the warship, Drexel entered his private chamber in silence. He stood before his collection of trophies, but they felt meaningless now. His own officers had begun to murmur. Some feared infection. Others whispered about strange energy signals, about the human colony being part of a wider unknown force. He stared at the data again. No weapons. No real defense. Just behavior, unclear, unpredictable, and effective. He remembered Lena's calm voice. Facts are easy to break. Ideas are harder. Was it possible that this colony had defeated them not through power, but through mystery? His chest tightened. He slammed his fist into the table. Back on EOS 7, Lena recorded another log entry. They came. They walked among us. But they left with more questions than answers. The more they look, the less they understand. We are not resisting with force. We are resisting with fear they don't know how to face. She turned off the recorder and looked up at the dark sky. For now, they were still alive. But the battle wasn't over. The warship floated in low orbit above EOS 7, silent and unmoving. Inside, the mood had shifted. What was once cold discipline now felt like tension waiting to break. Whispers ran through the crew, strange talk of ghosts, of madness, of humans who welcomed the end without fear. Commander Drexel Var paced alone in the war chamber. The lights dimmed. His mind burned with questions. Nothing on EOS 7 followed logic. There were no defenses, no threats, yet the colony still stood. Worse, it had gotten inside his mind. He activated the holoscreen. Lena Morrow's face appeared again in a still image taken from the ground. Her calm stare met his even now. This is nonsense, he muttered. But part of him didn't believe that anymore. Vark entered the chamber quietly. His eyes were tired. Report, Drexel barked. The crew is restless. Some think the colony is hiding a weapon. Others believe it's cursed. We've had 5 requests for reassignment. Even the AI has flagged the behavior below as non-standard psychological threat. Drexel turned. This is a farming colony. Not anymore, Vark replied. Whatever they're doing, it's working. Drexel clenched his fists. I won't let a group of dust-covered peasants outthink me. Kes Veruin, the scout who had once defected, entered behind Vark. Then stop playing their game, Kes said. Drexel glared. You dare speak, Commander, you already lost control. Not to weapons. To doubt. They've made your fleet hesitate. That's not weakness. That's brilliance. I should have you executed. Then do it, Kes said firmly. But it won't change the truth. Drexel stared at him. Silence hung heavy in the room. He turned away. Leave me, he growled. They left. Alone again, Drexel watched the latest transmission from EOS 7. Lena stood on a small hill, the wind blowing softly around her. She wasn't armed. She wasn't afraid. Her voice echoed through the speaker. We don't want war. But we're not afraid of it either. You can destroy buildings. You can burn ground. But what will you do when the idea survives? When your power means nothing here? She stepped closer to the camera. Empires fall when they fear questions more than enemies. The transmission ended. Drexel stared at the black screen for a long time. Then, slowly, he walked to the bridge. The officers stood at attention, but their eyes betrayed unease. He looked over them all, then gave the order. Prepare for departure. We're leaving orbit. Gasps filled the room. A few officers exchanged glances, unsure if they'd heard correctly. Commander, Vark asked. We're retreating? We are reassessing. This colony is not a threat militarily, but our presence here serves no purpose now. They've won in the only battle that matters, perception. No one moved. Finally, Vark nodded. Yes, Commander. Drexel turned and looked at the planet below one last time. A barren colony. No ships. No guns. Just people who stood still and made giants stumble. He felt anger. But buried beneath it, he felt something else. Respect. Back on EOS 7, the colonists watched as the Volari warship rose higher into the sky. Then, with a shimmer of light, it vanished into hyperspace. No shots fired. No bodies lost. The enemy was gone. Cheers didn't come right away. Instead, there was silence. Lena stood in the square, breathing deeply, her hands trembling. They left, Tamir said beside her. She nodded. They left. The people began to gather, slowly, quietly, at first. Some wept. Others hugged without words. The danger had passed, but the memory of it lingered like a shadow. Juno approached Lena. You did it. We all did, Lena replied. Together. You think they'll return? Lena looked to the stars. Maybe. But they'll remember this place. And next time, they won't come with the same certainty. That evening, the colony lit a fire in the center square. Not to celebrate war, but to honor peace held through courage. No battles were fought, but a great defense had been made, built with unity, strategy, and the power of the unknown. As the flames crackled, Lena recorded her final message. This is EOS 7, the smallest, weakest colony in human space. Today, we stood our ground not with weapons, but with minds. We reminded an empire that fear doesn't always come from strength, sometimes it comes from silence. From stillness. From being unshaken in the face of power. She closed the recorder and stared into the fire. They had done the impossible. Without firing a shot. Morning came soft and quiet on EOS 7. The wind moved gently through the fields, brushing past the weathered homes and solar towers. Dew glistened on the greenhouses. The air smelled of soil, smoke, and peace. The Volari warship was gone. No one came to harm them. No fleet followed. No bombs fell. The sky above was blue and empty. But everything had changed. Lena Morrow sat on the roof of the old communications tower, staring out over the colony. She watched the people move slowly through the square below. Some cleaned up the ritual props and glowing symbols. Others simply sat together, not needing to speak. It was over, but no one rushed back to normal. They were still learning what victory meant without war. Lena held a small transmitter in her hands. It was a simple device, outdated, patched together with spare parts and wire. But it worked. And now, it would carry a message far beyond EOS 7. She pressed the button and began to speak. To all listening beyond this system, this is Lena Morrow of EOS 7. We are safe. The Volari Dominion arrived in force. But they did not attack. They came expecting resistance or surrender. We offered neither. We gave them something they did not prepare for, doubt. We confused them, disoriented them, refused to behave the way victims are expected to. We made them fear what they could not explain. And they left. She paused, letting her words settle into the quiet. We had no weapons, no soldiers, but we had each other. We used fear as they did, but we turned it back on them. With silence, with symbols, with calm. We made them believe we were something more than just human settlers. We made them question themselves. Let this be a signal to every forgotten world, every colony left behind. You are not powerless. Your strength may not be in your weapons or walls. It may be in your unity, in your patience, in your ideas. She released the button and lowered the transmitter. Her voice would bounce across frequencies, traveling through relay towers, drifting through deep space. Someone would hear it. Someone always did. Later that day, the council met in the food hall. It still smelled like boiled roots and fire-warmed metal. The long tables were full again, not with fear this time, but with quiet strength. The people need a plan, Tamir said. What's next? We rebuild, Lena replied. We clean. We grow. And we prepare for whatever comes after. Juno leaned forward. Do you really think this will spread? That other colonies will try what we did? They won't need to try exactly what we did, Lena said. But they'll know they have a choice. And sometimes, knowing that is enough. Over the next weeks, the story of EOS 7 began to travel. At first, it was just fragments. Whispers on smuggler ships. Broken messages bouncing between stations. A colony that made the Volari leave without a fight. A place that turned fear into a weapon. Humans who acted like ghosts and made an empire blink. Then the messages became clearer. Other colonies, small, overlooked, began to resist. Not with war, but with confusion. With art. With culture. With silence. Whole cities turned into mazes of strange lights and mirrored streets. Some played ancient songs on open frequencies. Others refused to speak at all when Dominion patrols arrived. And the Volari began to hesitate. EOS 7 became a name spoken quietly, respectfully. Not because it had weapons, but because it had changed the game. One day, weeks after the Volari had left, a small ship landed near the edge of the colony. It bore no markings. Just a lone traveler, human. He came quietly, carrying only a recorder. He asked to speak to Lena. She met him outside the old comm tower. I've heard the stories, he said. Is it true? You really sent an empire away without firing a shot. Lena looked at him. Her face was calm, tired, but steady. We didn't send them away, she said. We made them question why they came at all. The man nodded. I want to tell your story. Let others know. Lena smiled faintly. Then tell it truthfully. Tell them we were scared. Tell them we didn't have answers. But tell them we stood anyway. As the traveler left, Lena returned to the fields. She knelt in the dirt, planting new seeds under the morning sun. Around her, the colony was alive again. And above, in the stars, the echo of what they had done continued to spread, changing minds, shifting power, one idea at a time. They had done it. Without guns. Without armies. They had changed the course of history.